Child sexual exploitation or child porn cases, what we see in Arizona. On a state level, these are very serious cases. Every single count, every single image is charged as a specific count, so one count. The type of sentence that you'd be looking at if you were convicted of child porn or child sexual exploitation would be at least 10 years, 10 to 17 to 24. A judge has to start at 17 years if you are sentenced on just one count of child sexual exploitation. It is flat, meaning it's day for day time that somebody would serve. They need to serve every day, and then if they're convicted of numerous counts, those counts have to be run what we call consecutively, meaning stacked. So for example, usually what we see throughout the state of Arizona is that the government will charge at least 10 counts because that gives them, if they win at trial, no less than 100 years straight in prison. So whenever I have conversations with clients or potential clients, I talk about legitimately how these are life in prison cases, okay? We have significant and extensive experience investigating these types of issues and litigating the types of issues associated with child sexual exploitation cases. Some of the issues that come up are, one, for example, is the photo taken for a sexually exploitive purpose? So common question that we get could be, I had photos in my phone of my child or my niece, whatever, and they were in the bathtub or they were the pool. Were those photos taken for a sexually exploitive purpose? Some of the things we might be looking at are whether or not the photos focus on the genitals, they focus on the anus, they focus on the breast. But if it is taken for a caretaking function as a parent, maybe you're trying to preserve memories and it is not for a sexually exploitive purpose, that is a defense. That's a factual defense that we would raise at trial. Additionally, some of the other issues that we have are possession. Did the person knowingly possess it? Did they knowingly distribute it? Obviously, these images are found either on computers, on phones. Oftentimes, the way that the investigations will start would be through something called NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a tip center where they're getting information from internet providers, for example, so Cox, or providers such as Google or Yahoo, things of that nature, where they find that there's certain data or information associated with what is known as child pornography, essentially sexually exploited material. They then send that information over to law enforcement. Law enforcement procures a warrant based on the information that comes in on the tip. Once they get the IP address for the home or the location where the child porn was allegedly found or transferred, there are issues associated with that. There can be issues with who is residing in the location, whether or not, if it was on a device, the individual who's being investigated knew it was in fact on that device, whether or not they transferred it to themselves or they transferred it to others. Those are important things that we're going to be looking for. Another thing that we're always looking at is whether or not the warrants were appropriate. If there are any issues in the warrant, if there was no probable cause at all for the warrant, if the officers lied within the search warrant affidavit to try to procure a warrant, if the warrant was overbroad, if it seized too much data from too long of a time period within a certain type of device, those are things that we're going to be looking for to challenge in a case because they have to appropriately search and seize things under the Fourth Amendment. Lastly, some of the other things that we'd be looking at is how many other people were living in the home or in that location, how many other people had access to the device in which the data was found, and also if the data is in fact data that is child sexually exploited material. Is it AI material? That's another big thing. We have people out there right now, there's cases that are coming about where people have a vendetta against somebody else. It could be a crazy ex. And sometimes this is how these cases start, where they accuse somebody of being pervert or saying that they're a child predator. And it could be that they inappropriately sent materials that could have been AI generated, or somehow they procured materials themselves and sent them over to somebody else. And those are things that your lawyer needs to be investigating. So there is a ton of information that we need to look at, a ton of things that we need to litigate. We work with some of the best experts throughout the state of Arizona, as well as I think the entire country. We work with some of the best forensic experts in the country on these types of issues. So if you need anything, call an experienced lawyer who actually handles these cases. We do these cases regularly. They're very common cases that we get calls on, and we litigate them all the time. We do everything that we can to save our clients from life in prison. So give us a call.